Before I started, I wanted to say something. I teach an English class at NAU, and one of my students came up to me today, and he grew up in Inglewood, California, and one of his best friends growing up actually was shot by police this weekend, and there are a lot of weird things going on with that, but mostly what I want to say is that no matter what, this reading is kind of in general for that student and his friend and his family and those who are connected with that. So this first poem is ultimately dedicated to my grandmother. She paid for me to get through college. She leased me a car to get my credit just ridiculous. So can't ask for a grandmother much better than that. So this one is called My Grandmother's Hands, Ink Stains in My Memory, 26 April 2016. Her hands were made of Bible paper, the ink stains telling old stories. Her voice cracked and whispered and told me what my mother did not know. Wisdom that is passed in the wind, not by voice or word. Her hands were like the summer grass, frail in the wind and falling. Her every day was filled with nothing. She had memories, and only memories. Not one could last until the next day. Her stories were fading, the ink had run out. Her every move was slow, and she screamed when they tried to help. Trapped in a prison, her mind a slave, not one day more. Her decision was final and settled like a bill long postponed, like a dream that she wanted to remember and forget, like a letter she forgot to mail. Her hands were like Bible paper, and the stories had faded onto my own hands. So these next few pieces are ones that strangely I actually started writing in the middle of class with Erin. Luckily, she's fine with that. So it's kind of a general sprawling mess. But this one is called One. Father, can you hear? Can you hear me? Mother, where are you? Where are you? Brother that is not my brother, where do you come from and how am I supposed to know you? Sister that I'll never know, what lessons could you have taught me? What words could you have said when I skinned my knee and started to cry? Cousins looming high above, why don't you understand me? Why am I so young and why do you need to tell me? No one is listening, shaking my fist, beating a staccato on the table before me. Cheeks flushed, eyes pissing tears. Why won't they listen to what I say? Why do they smile when I tell them I'm suffering? Father, please don't. Mother and I are scared. Your voice is loud and you never hit, but I feel you in my stomach. I feel it when you slam the door and I feel it when you drive away. I feel my mother's tears, and I watch through the window as you car crash into the distance. Where have you been, Father? Mother is still angry. I'm older, I'm taller, I think I'm bigger than you now. Maybe I've grown large enough, maybe I could take you. You taught me how to punch. You taught me that I should always stand up to bullies, to rub dirt in my wounds, to toughen up, to sack up. Where are you now that I know these things, now that I'm stronger and meaner, and all because of you? I see you only sometimes, Father. That is your name now. Sometimes, Father. Sometimes here, sometimes there. I remember your voice, and when it's too dark in my bedroom and I can't find the light, I hear your voice, and I remember you standing, looming over me with your nightmare stare and your black eyes and mean soul. I snuck drinks from your cognac, drinking it downstairs while you were at work and Mother showered down upstairs. I opened the bottle and upended it, and I drank it and accepted the burn. I accepted the fact that this is how it would be. I understood all the times that you were flushed and woozy and laid down in the corner. I understood how sick you'd sometimes get and why you only drank coffee black. I stumbled around, and by the time you could find me, I was under the covers. I found you that night. I found you and heard you, and somehow you knew it. I knew who you were talking to. I knew what you'd done. I knew that Mother didn't know, that maybe she'd never know. Where are you, Father? I could really use some advice. Where are you, Father? Where are you? So these next two are a bit longer. This is where it gets into that super hybrid element. So I've been super creative and named this one 2. The homes came first, laid out grids of house after house, tiny boxes, they say. The trees were ripped up, the grass was bulldozed away, and in the end there was a whole new manufactured world, a manufactured clean slate of buildings and streets, bedrooms and driveways. One couple first, then a family, then more. A house of young professionals, a scandal because they claim they do not want children. The couples have children, and all the children are playing together. There are always one or two that don't fit in, that's fine. As long as they don't get bullied, what do we care, right? What will it matter if a few here or there slip through the cracks and others suffocate when we decide to patch up the roads? We can't let the Lexus hit the pothole. Then the Lexus was replaced by broken down cars with rusted engines, and if a few more fell in, what of it? What was done was done. Do you remember the playground? I remember the sounds of rusty chains and cringing metal. I remember the sounds of laughter and crying and the stomp of shoes on dry dirt. I remember the way that it felt on the tire swing as we moved around and around, how it felt when I pushed and jumped on and Joey fell off and then he died. I remember the way that the principal sometimes stood watch over us, and I remember the time that I cursed and she screamed into my ear. I remember the time Coach was angry because I wasn't a good sport, how he threw dodgeballs and basketballs at me in the corner of the gym while everyone watched. I had my first panic attack. My mom came to school and scratched his face. The blood on his cheeks matched the tears that I kept trying to wipe away. I remember the time I asked a girl if I could kiss her and she said no. I didn't know what to do, so I ran away and I stayed home sick that week. I told my mother I had a cold. I remember when Jordan tried to punch me and everything suddenly went down. A bunch of 10-year-olds playing at swinging punches on a dried-up soccer field where the lines were the canyons of erosion in the dead earth. A foot got stuck here, a friend pulled someone. He threw dirt in my eyes and punched me, and I landed on my wrist. I can still feel it break. I remember the car crash, the blinking red light. Shopping interrupted by a clash of metal on metal, oil exploding and engines to push us faster into each other. The powder of the airbags hanging in the air, particles frozen in a moment of fear. The way my father held his arm across my chest, the crumpled violence of the car in front of us. The screaming of a little girl, "Mommy, Mommy, please, Mommy, don't die." Sitting by the side of the road, crying, trying to piece together the crash, and the moment my eyes opened. A teenager sat with me while they cut her mommy out with the jaws of life. I still see her blood. I remember James and the smell of his house. I remember the hours we spent in front of TVs, in front of glowing screens. Joysticks, controllers, pressing, mashing buttons. James Bond at the whim of our hands. Puppet master. His father always smelled like laundry, like the smell of fresh things. His father was kind, and I didn't know what to say when he smiled. My father doesn't smile. I remember the flu that took me out of school, throwing up in my father's new car, the hatred in his face. The days and the days and the days that stretched on. I hated the thought of school, of the bullies, of being called faggot over and over every day. I hated the thought of going back. I stayed sick. I made myself a medical anomaly. There are still studies. I was the world's most unsolvable case of nausea. I didn't go back. I remember the Saturdays where I went to the library and I felt the most free. I remember bringing canvas bags and filling them over and over, sitting at tables, hiding behind books, trying to talk to Kelsey, trying to think of something to say. Yes, of course I've read Twilight. Yes, of course it was great. Yes, of course I have nothing to say. Yes, of course I'm too afraid to say. I remember my first guitar and the feeling of the neck in my hands, the strings dug into the soft skin of my fingertips, masochism, relief and dreaming of one day finding pleasure. Hours of chords, scales, tablature, lessons, quitting lessons, chords, scales, tablature. The sound of my voice on a tape recorder, playing Hallelujah and straining to sing notes that would reach Jeff Buckley, that would make him swing back to the shore. The sound of not knowing how to speak, so I learned to sing. The sound of snapping strings that broke my heart, the feeling of smashing that guitar and crying and smiling because it felt good. I remember leaving, driving, moving away. No friends to see me off, no relatives for final hugs and kisses, just a car and music and the sound of driving and highways. Miles and miles going by, miles that seemed to stretch into the distance. Deadlands, badlands, prairie, dead grass, endless horizons. Where was home? What was home? The roads have crumbled away, for sale, for sale, for sale. Cars disappear by the hour. Families leave, children cry. A suicide down the road. The last stragglers wave, waiting for their turn. The cracks have become wider and wider. People have fallen deeper and deeper. There will be no barbecues, no birthday parties. Just an endless mile of empty homes and smashed out windows. The graffiti simply says, "We're gone." So this one I named, in the end, It's Fine, It's Fine. It's not. As the water dwindled and things became rare, we began to catalog. Lists of sundries, dailies, momentaries. The memories that once resided deep in recesses of our minds, our imagination, came to life again. The end seems to always return us to the beginning, to take us to places that we saw long ago, to places that seem to recede. There were pictures of some of it, some concrete and some hidden in folders behind our eyes. We saw the world ending, the oceans coming, the glaciers gone, the animals dying, the vegetables wilting. We saw time. We saw endings, sleeping moments in repose, waiting for remembrance. Showering in a small house, fracking, rotting the ground, and stinking the water, soft as baby oil, the acrid of sulfur, tingling, burning. We held each other for hours, letting it run over us and never knowing if the soap was gone or still hidden on our bodies. We held each other for hours just to remember the memories one day, only to forget, only to remember in the end. Walking through a park, our boots matching leather, matching step for step. The fish in the koi ponds, the long drooping branches of trees, the click of cameras, the feel of the wind on my shaven face. I stopped once here, once there, hidden, watching her to feel the love of her from afar. Watching her leave, clothes stuffed in trash bags, alcoholic binging pain, ringing, ringing, ringing. No goodbye, no return, no decision that this decision was all so wrong. Just me, alone in our bed, cradling a bottle just as I used to cradle her. Cocaine, whiskey, pills, pills, pills. Friends bribing me with more pills, if only to eat a little pad thai, if only to keep me alive, if only to feed my desires, if only to satiate what I had forgotten. And then it ended. The TV told us it was true, that everyone had been wrong or right. It was happening. Water started creeping up the shore. Cities started to sink. Highways flooded with cars, people, refugees, new nomads, murder, destruction. I watched from the center as the east and the west converged. Then the gulf crept upwards, and then it was time. Nomads, nomad life, nomad things, nomad clothes, nomad violence. Clothes, only the minimum, only the most resilient, nothing with memories. Excuse me. Nothing with designs, nothing that reminded me of the before the flood. Nothing that reminded me of things I could never have again, nothing that would tatter, nothing that would fray in the dirt, the dust, the cracking roads. Boots, thick socks, a jacket, a sweater, some gloves. Grass poking up from the cracks in the highway, already falling, already chipping, already breaking under the pressure of running, driving, people, people, people. Gas for the car running out, stealing, siphoning, once taking a bat to a man's face. Taking his money, his clothes, his belongings, stripping his car of what we needed, taking the battery, take the oil, take the sound system, sell it to the fucker down the way. He bleeds, bleeds. We kill him, it's necessary. We say sorry to his body, to the fractured pulp of his face. Sorry, friend. This is how it is now. The last rain, the very last rain, the drops on our brow, collecting the water and then forgetting. I want to remember. I want to remember that. The feeling of cold water on my brow. I knew she was gone. I knew all of them. All the things I loved, all the people I couldn't find were gone. Cell phones were done. The streetlights didn't light. It was the end. Eternal darkness, stars blotted out by smoke that kept coming, kept coming. Everything was burning. I was done. Cocaine, whiskey, pills, the last of it. Withdrawals. Pull me closer to death. Please, I begged, please. I survived. The water was almost gone. They turned to me, trying to decide whether to kill me. A gun in my hand. I'll kill you for wanting to kill me. I'll kill you, I begged. I chambered a bullet. They left me, left the water, took the car. A picture, 2 smiling faces. I burned it. I didn't want to see it. We're all gone soon. The picture is just the message that nothing can last. Burning it was so fast that I saw that even moments we capture are just held for a moment and slip through our fingers. Alone, I saw the end. I watched the sun burst, the radiation coming, the oceans evaporating. I watched families cluster, embrace, kiss, hug. I watched husbands and wives, lovers, each enmeshed in a passionate farewell, the sound of fucking and tears and moans of last pleasure. I watched as the fire came near, enveloping us, watched as the last bits of ocean rose a wall of water. My last memories, my last hopes and dreams, my last thoughts that carried me into the end, my last wet dream, my last erection, my last tumescent terror. They're all gone, the girls, the drugs, the memories, the whiskey, the cocaine, the pills, the sex. All that is left is the approaching horizon, the last nightmare, the one where I am gone, where she is gone, where all of it burns and burns until there is nothing but the memory of the earth holding our ashes as a mother cradles her child. Thank you.